Hello, it's Gary here. This is the 30th of November, and I'd been looking through a number of S&D charts, and I know everybody's starting to wonder what they're going to seed for next year, and most of us are going to look at some wheat, I'm sure, and this supply and demand table from the U.S. Wheat Associates popped up, and I think it's well worth the time to go through it. I'll flip through some of it quite quickly, and if you wish, but there's a few items that caught my eye very quickly on this. And the highlights, it's the USDA's numbers. But I think they've done a reasonably good job here in sizing this up, in the fact that there's really some three big pieces about this, and I think the third one is the big one, is that Russian exports are going to be 19% higher than last year and 56% higher than the 5-year average. If you want to check this out, simply go to Ag Growth International out of Winnipeg and look in their pictures of their recent projects that they've got. Man, they've been doing a ton of work in the Black Sea region. So there's a lot of things happening there. Exports out of Australia to fall, so that's 17 million, but that's only half of what the increase was out of Russia. And the U.S. is just not moving very fast. I mean, they're struggling. And let's go to more of the numbers and take a look at them. I think, we're going to have beginning stocks are going to be huge. I don't know the way to put it. I don't like looking at production and use numbers this way, but this is telling you that the use was 740 million tons and the production was 752. So supplies in particular countries it goes through is Canada and the U.S. and Argentina. Everybody's listed here. The beginning stocks have shrunk a tiny bit for 17-18, but not very much, and we were carrying a lot in the beginning. So supply and demand, if you look at it this way, at the end of 18, if our usage hasn't changed any between these 2 years, we're still going to have over between 20 and 25% stocks to use, which is not a good situation. Now, most people want to caution you in talking just about that because there's so much wheat in store in China. It's very unusual. It's been growing larger in the last few years, but it's still a big chunk of it. But even if we ignore that, we can see what the others, the group that we're in, are holding. The Black Sea, whereas the Black Sea, even though they're increasing exports, this must mean that their system is working much better than what we expected at this time. Because look, their carryover is not significant from what it was. So I think that's something that we have to realize, that these guys are real. So the global stocks to use ratio with China is 36%, which is not fun. Take China out, we're still 22. Those aren't price boosting numbers. And here's the wheat stocks as they sit in the first part of November. And I think you can say world wheat stocks by million metric tons by position. The importers are working very much hand to mouth, but the exporters and China's got a gob of it. So what's this doing to price? It's hard to see this price getting back going again. And I think when we get to the grades here, you're going to have a look at the situation. Now, the Canadian situation, all of you had a great chance last summer to price it way higher than we are today. And I tried to look for companies that would do it for 2018. There was only one out there that would consider it. So I think, most of you were caught, and you're going to want to take advantage of any sort of rallies if you're going to have to grow wheat. But when you look at this, the beginning stocks are large. I mean, we've seen them, last time we saw them, this high was 14-15, but we were about the same in 15-16, but it's still too much, and the rest of the world has a bunch too. So I just don't see that. Now, what's sort of sad about this is this goes back almost to before when we had a wheat board. We're not doing a good job of getting rid of this stuff and not marketing as aggressively as we could. Now, we can say that, but nobody else is either. The Aussies are carrying more over than we are. Their ending stocks are big. And Argentina, they just don't have the storage. The EU, again, the EU situation as to what they're carrying over 11.7 million metric tons. They're pretty consistent. The Black Sea region, well, they've got 21, but man alive, they've booted an awful pile out the door. And that's what's making a big difference here. The Ukraine, Russia, and Kazakhstan. And Russia has still got a lot of acres to come in yet, so they're not done expanding. So the ending stocks over there are about 27 million metric tons. The U.S. situation, and looking at what we've done, and this would be basically looking at their ending stocks at about 25.6 million metric tons, which these years in here, going through from 13, 14 forward, are very unusual for the U.S. This has been something that we're building. We haven't been up in these kinds of areas for many, many years. So, the world wheat importers, if you look down this list, Egypt is still huge. And guess where Russia is spending a lot of their time? Black Sea freight into Egypt is very cheap. And they are spending a lot of time making friends in Egypt and Algeria right now. Very different. So that one's going to be a tougher nut to crack. Excuse me. The top 10 customers for U.S. wheat, as you can see, Japan's still number one. But we are, moving. Here's another one to Nigeria. And top 10 customers for U.S. wheat to date, Mexico. Here's free trade. That thing blows up, we're going to see some changes there. And that's not going to be helpful. If NAFTA blows up, then you can expect more wheat staying home. And Mexico is already trying to buy it out of South America today. So this is a bit of a different situation that we're going to have to contend with. So world wheat imports continue to increase, but the production has moved well ahead of it. So let's look at where we are by class on wheat and taking a look across here, because I know some of you are interested in durum. Very small slice of this. But U.S. plantings, as to what they project next year, they're not going to be much bigger, maybe a couple 100,000 acres more. So this is something that I want you to take a look at. The hard red spring, which is the green up here, is the one that they see them dropping off again. The hard red winter's already dropped off. So they are going down in acres, and then they will continue to move down. The hard red spring, they see problems, and it's going to take rain in a lot of that area in the Dakotas, but guess who is the largest lentil growing state in the U.S.? The largest lentil growing state is Montana. They have come on strong along with North Dakota, South Dakota. These guys have figured out the pulses. So we're going to have to pay more attention to them on this side. The soft winter wheat, looking at what beginning stocks, they had huge beginning stocks. So let's just toggle right through to where we are on this instead of the U.S. numbers. If you look at these, you could get upset quite quickly when you look at stocks to use numbers across here. They're terrible. They're awful, and there's a good reason they're not seeding it, because to think that you're going to see big recoveries quickly out of this mess, it's going to take more than 1 year. So Gulf prices continue to dwindle, and I can see, it's going to get down to where it competes with feed. U.S. Gulf basis and P&W basis, same sort of thing. So let's look at what's happened, and I don't want to spend too much time on things that beat this thing to death. Looking at what's happening with corn, we've got huge stocks of corn globally. And looking at production and looking at use is slightly outstripping production, but we've had big carryovers. And beans are the ones that are more current. We're going to use them up. So the oil seeds is a bright spot. Ocean freights, my goodness, ocean freights for grains, Gulf to the Middle East, and looking at some of these ones along the bottom, back in 1988, it was $24, whichever direction around the world you wanted to go, a ton. These things have only made it up. I mean, the high up here from the Great Lakes, so you're looking at transloading, but once you get out of there, around 40 to 50 bucks takes it anywhere. So, in summary, world consumption and trade is going to decrease. So, as far as your thoughts go for pricing this year, it's going to depend a lot on our dollar. If our dollar stays below 78 cents, kind of stays in range bound between that 75 to 78 cents. Start looking for some pricing and see what you can get. The basis is going to be more volatile than what we've normally seen just because of how competitive this is going to be. Our sources of market are going to be west, and we'll be looking very hard at them, but it's going to be very competitive out in that environment. So take the time to go through this a little slower if you wish. It's going to all be online and it'll be there in about 5 minutes. So thank you very much.